Okay, Andy. Good morning, everyone. Online friends, can you hear my voice? Say yes or no to me once. Okay, Andy. Some pending topics are there. Let me conclude them once. So on the day, the disturbance came. I not loaded the notes. I'm re-explaining this and typing the program. So in the process of concluding the servlet anyway, so these are all servlet related objects. Servlet context, servlet config, servlet request, nothing but HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response, beans, DAOs, Java collection frameworks, HTTP session, and cookie. Among the two objects not covered, context and config. So that only I started to give information about the context and config. I'm trying to give some information about the context and config. On the day, I'm trying to type one program here. So it is not clear for you on that day. I'll start again. I stopped in the middle as it is how I stopped there only and not I touched it again. Right. So I took one application known as application servlet 7 servlet context. I took one application here. So HTTP local host 8082 application application servlet context. Excuse me. So servlet 7 servlet servlet 7. I'm trying to explain context and config. Servlet context like this. Here automatically one object created when the application is deployed. When the application is deployed, automatically one object created. We call it as servlet context. You can see the object will have one address. Here server information is available. Server information is available, some Tomcat. This servlet context can be accessed by, this servlet context can be accessed by JSP by using one implicit name known as application, So this is the information available with you already. So now the control will go to web.xml. The control will go to web.xml. From here, the control will go here. Through this web.xml, I am generating one input.html. I am generating. From there, we are giving link to input.html. Input.html. Where some action is equal to some DAS. Some action is equal to DAS. Where we are collecting some uname. We are collecting. Uname is equal to LX. We are having one submit button here. That is display, known as display. From this web.xml, the control will come here. So whenever I click on this display, one servlet program will be loaded. One servlet program running on URL pattern DAS. For this, one config object will come automatically. Servlet config object will come where servlet name is loaded. Servlet name will be there. Servlet name, I'm going to take display servlet anyway. Display servlet. This also having one address. After that, servlet object is created. Then servlet object is created. So servlet object is created. We call it as display servlet, you can say. Display servlet. Display servlet, you can say. While do post method, do get method, anyway, here request object will come. HTTP servlet request. Here 0x4. Here HTTP servlet response. HTTP servlet response 0x5. Here the data is loaded. Uname is equal to LX. So control will come from here to here to here. And this servlet is giving one response. One response must be given. So this is display.jsp. Display.jsp. We are forwarding the control rd dot forward of req and res. Now, whenever the JSP is there, automatically config object created. Config object created. Here one request object created. One request object created. Here one response object created. So here one implicit object known as out. Implicit object known as out. So here the out is created. Now here these objects are reused. So this request is reused here. This response is reused. When the request and response is reused, whatever the data is available in the request, that is available here also. Uname is equal to LX. Is equal to LX. Now, it can take the data inside. Whatever the data is there, it can take the data inside into some uname, some UN is equal to some LX. You can read the data from here and you can put the output. You can put one output. So output will come out from here. The output will come out. So here the output you are expecting here. So this is the flow. So here, whatever the data is submitted from HTML form, the data is available in the request. I forwarded, it can display. This is okay. Now JSP can display this one also, because it can use application dot get server information. It can display the server information also. It can display. So whether it is accessing with application or not, let me print it once. So I'm completing that program. So before starting the program, here, stop the Tomcat server here. So stop the Tomcat server. Okay. Then here, already HTML form we constructed on that day. We are constructing servlet. Now this is extends from HTTP servlet. Here do post method. protected void do post of HTTP servlet servlet request req HTTP servlet response res throws servlet servlet exception and IO exception. So this method is override, suppress. So servlet will not do any work. It forwards the control simply REQ get request dispatcher uh, display dot JSP dot forward request and response. Just it is forwarding. That's all. It is not doing any work. Just forwarding the control to display dot JSP. Now from display dot JSP, I'm trying to display that username. I'm trying to display this server information. I'm trying. So let us go with this one. So on the day, anyway, here incomplete. I'll read that. Okay, right. I'll read the data. So let me finish off it. I am taking display.jsp. So under web app, right click, new one JSP, that is display.jsp, display.jsp. So here, scriptlet, get the name inside, get the name inside. So string username is equal to request, request, QUEST, request dot get parameter, request dot get parameter of uname. So display it out dot print ln here. Welcome, welcome some user, and you are printing that UN, you are printing. Now, sir, I want to display context information here. I want to display the context information. Servlet context information I want to display. In that servlet context information, server information is there. So display it out dot print ln here. Server information is equal to application dot get server info. So application is the implicit name of your servlet context. We can access server information. So JSP is giving that output. Let me cross check. So let me run this program by adding your web.xml anyway. So XML file, web.xml. Under web.xml, here we had web app. Web app. So welcome file list. Welcome file list. So welcome file. So welcome file input.html. So our input.html. So the answer will come. I'll run it. Run as, run on server. Click on finish. Right. Give some name Alex here and display. This is HTML input. This is your server information. So we are server information available in the context. Actually, why I'm spending here means some more information I want to give. That all I'm trying. Why I'm conducting again and again class, even management disturbed me the flow anyway. But even then, why I'm calling you means I want to give one information to you. The information is in your real time scenario. Suppose your application is there. Suppose here one application is there. This application can take the data from web browser. Some web browser, nothing but HTML form inputs. We can take some data and we can give some output. That only we are practicing. That is advanced Java. But sometimes we have to exchange the information between application to application. Some application to application, the information is going to be exchanged. Means our application, sometimes it takes the data from another application and gives the data to another application, it can give it. This only are web services generally. Suppose into my application, the data is coming from HTML form. Anyway, the practice over. When this practice over, I closed the batch already because that only advanced Java, nothing is there. Application, communication not available in advance. Web browser to application communication only available in the advance. Whenever I covered this servlet, I stopped it. I not given priority for JSP also because Spring is there now already. Spring is giving more modules to construct many things. So whenever this part is ended, I neglected your batch generally. But today I want to give one information. Sir, if my application want to take the input not from the web browser, some other, not from the web browser means not in the form of HTML, I want to get the data. Is it possible or not? Means like this. So anyway, your application running. So I want to send the data to my application. Whenever I want to send the data to my application without involvement of this web browser, how I can send it? You can send like this. Information you can send here through web.xml. Through web.xml, you can send the data to servlet context. You can send because without web browser involvement, whatever the data are coming from another application through XML, you can send the data to context. For this, we are using one tag known as context PARAM. One tag is there. Through that tag, we are going to initialize some parameter value, means some value we are going to keep here. Value means some data. There are XML documents there. Means through servlet context or through web.xml, instead of sending through HTML form, now I'll send the data to context. Through context, servlet can access, JSP can access. Whatever the data is available in this context, servlet can access and JSP can access. To say this point only, I'm running the class. See there. Servlet context is an interface from Jakarta.servlet package and which is instantiated automatically when application is deployed into server loaded. This servlet context object is loaded with server information. Okay. We use get servlet context method to access servlet context object reference into servlet program. Whenever you want to access into servlet program, we use get servlet context. We use application implicit object of JSP to access servlet context object reference into JSP. If you want to access to servlet, get a servlet context is there. If you want to access to JSP, implicit is there. Implicit means this address can be accessed to servlet by using get servlet context, or you can access this servlet context to JSP by using application. Up to here, okay. Now the statement for today, we use context PARAM tag in. Up to now, I not added anything to web.xml. Today I'm adding newly. We use context PARM tag in web.xml to initialize the parameters to servlet context object. Write the notes. If not, if your continuation not there, you leave it. I'm writing the notes. We use context. We use context PARAM tag in web.xml to initialize parameter value to servlet context object. We use context PRM tag in web.xml to initialize parameter values to servlet context object. The syntax we write like this. Already you are writing your web app there. Here we write context PARAM. One new tag we are writing. Context PARAM. PARAM name. Parameter name we take it. PARAM value. PARAM value. We take it. Followed by welcome file list. So we are going to add one new context PARAM in web.xml. Right. Let me add this context PRM. Let me add it to your web.xml. So to your web.xml, first time you are adding here. You are adding one more tag today. Context PARAM. PARAM name. I'm taking a PARAM value. I'm taking some value. I'm taking. So now, whenever this web.xml is executed, automatically the data is binded here. To access this parameter value to servlet or JSP, we use one method. Make it. We use get init parameter method to access initialized parameters from servlet context object. we use getInit parameter method to access initialized parameters from servlet context object. Syntax is nothing but string is the return type, value is equal to, you must take object name here. Means if we take JSP, application will be there. If I'll take it as object name, I'll take dot get init parameter of, here parameter name you have to give it. Here object name is nothing but servlet context object name from servlet or application implicit name in JSP. Now, now look here. Go to JSP and access that variable. Go to JSP and access. From that servlet context, one value came, you can access. So out dot println here servlet context, some value we initialized, that one we print it. How will print it now? Sir application dot get init parameter of a. We will print like this. So whatever the parameter is there, this a value will come here. Means what? Without involvement of web browser, the data are coming from another application to your web.xml to context to JSP or context to servlet. You can bring it. That is one way. Whether the answer is coming or not. So run on server. Some Alex. So without involvement of without involvement of web browser, one data came out. So we can send the data to context. So finally, here, project name, I took application servlet 7, servlet context, servlet context. I took one layout. Under this layout, I took input.html, display servlet.java, display.jsp. So web.xml, we kept one document. So we can send the data to web.xml. From web.xml, we can send the data to context. From context, we can send the data to your JSP or servlet. That's the information. And one more new tag came known as a context PARAM. Right. So servlet context will help you to collect the data from other applications. Not only in a Spring Flavor, maybe you're in the Spring course, I think. One day, application communication will come. Always web browser only will not be there in the background. Once you give the request, to fulfill that request, application to application communication is going to happen, which is not available in the advanced Java. If we cross advanced Java only, it will come. You have to collect this information. So without a web browser involvement, if I want to collect the data, you can collect the data through servlet context. That's the information to you. Now, the same way, let us reveal one more object known as a config. This config. Now make it servlet config. One more object, servlet config. Servlet config. Servlet config is an interface from Jakarta.servlet package, and which is instantiated automatically when servlet program loaded for execution. Servlet config is an interface from Jakarta.servlet package, and which is instantiated automatically when servlet program loaded for execution. This servlet config object is loaded with servlet name. Loaded with servlet name. Loaded with servlet name. Loaded with servlet name. So servlet name will be recorded to that object. From day one, I'm revealing this point to you. Now see, I'm taking a separate application for clarity purpose. So I'm taking dynamic web project. So application servlet servlet 8 servlet servlet config. So add the jar file, build path, configure build path. Here, add external jar, servlet API, open, apply and close. I'm taking the same file here, input.html. I'll take. Same file I'll take. Copy. Same file I'm going to take. Paste. Input.html I'll take. Same one I'll take. Same thing I'll take because demo purpose only, no, right? So here the diagram will be like this. Sir, I took, sir, HTTP local host 8082 application servlet servlet 8. So servlet config. Servlet config. I'm taking same concept. Sir, here servlet context object, but we are not using context now. Over. We are not using that. So, but here object will come. Servlet content. At last we accessed one server information also today. So 0x1. This can be accessed by JSP using application. Using application here. Now the control will come to web.xml as usual. Web.xml as usual. The control always will come to web.xml. Through web.xml, I'm giving input.html. I'm giving. input dot HTML I'm giving. Same. Action is equal to DAS. Like this. Where you name is equal to Alex. Here you had a display. If I click on it, the control will come to display servlet. Same name I am taking, display servlet. But before servlet object created, sir, servlet config created first. SERVLAT, servlet config created first. In this servlet config, here servlet name will come as display servlet will come. After this config object only, this object created, we call it as display servlet object. But today's concept is I want to initialize some data from web.xml to context. That's the target. Because I send the data to context already. Now I want to send the data to config. I want to send the data to config. So some value I'll send it. Some value roughly. Some B is equal to 3000 roughly I'll send. I want to send. I'm going to use one tag known as here INIT PARAM. This is a tag. So you can load the data to context, you can load the data to config. Now I'm trying to load the data to config. Okay, right. So whenever I want to load the data to config, right, like this. First, the statement is this servlet config object is loaded with the servlet name. Sir, how to access the servlet config object? We use get servlet config, get servlet config method to access servlet config object reference into servlet program. We use get servlet config method to access servlet config object reference into servlet program. So we have to use, sir, syntax is nothing but we must use here SERVLAT servlet config SEF is equal to super dot get servlet config. Sir, why you are using super dot here means I'm going to access from the parent. So who is the parent now for your servlet? HTTP servlet. Above that, generic servlet. So this method available from the generic servlet. This method belongs to generic servlet. Generic servlet is the parent of HTTP servlet. HTTP servlet is the parent of your servlet program. We are going to access that method by using super keyword, just syntax. Draw one box and keep it. Now, sir, I want to initialize the data to config object. Then you must use, we use INIT PARAM sub tag. It is not main tag. It is a sub tag. We use INIT PARAM sub tag of servlet tag. sub tag of servlet tag to initialize parameter values to servlet config object. Servlet config object. We use initprm subtag of servlet tag. So servlet tag, I forget it here, in web.xml, to initialize parameter values to servlet config object. We are going to use initprm subtag of servlet tag in web.xml to initialize parameter values to servlet config object. So the syntax will look like this. The syntax will look like this. So web app, here already context PRM is there. Below that, new tag we are writing today, servlet tag we are writing. Inside the servlet tag, we write init param. We write one tag known as init param. Parameter name we take it. Parameter value we take it. Right. Already you written. Here two more tags are there. You strike out and write. I forget it. 1 minute. If possible, here servlet name will come. Servlet name. Here servlet class will come. Like this. Below this servlet, we'll use one more subtag known as servlet servlet mapping. Servlet mapping. Servlet name we are going to take. Here URL pattern. Here your welcome file list. So this is a syntax. So we are introducing three tags. One is servlet, one is servlet mapping, one initPRM. So in this servlet mapping, we are writing URL pattern also we are writing. Same method we are going to use. We use get init parameter method to access initialized parameter value from servlet config object. Same method we are going to use. Right. So like this, the coding syntax will be like this. So first we have tried web.xml, you have tried. So first we are writing web.xml file we are writing. So under webinf, new, other, one XML, web.xml. In this web.xml, from day one onwards, welcome file list is available. Welcome file list is available. So welcome file input.html. Today we are having a tag known as servlet. We are having a tag known as servlet mapping. Servlet mapping. Here servlet name. Servlet name I am going to take display servlet. I am going to take servlet class means dot class file. Dot class file means you must give the package name. So here servlet class test dot display servlet I'm taking. So inside this servlet tag, we are taking init param. One tag we are taking. Here parameter name param name I'm taking. Parameter value param value I am taking. Now servlet name, servlet class, display servlet, init param name, param value. In servlet mapping here, we take servlet name, we take it. Whatever the name you took here, same name you have to take it. Then only these two tags are mapped. So here, display servlet. Daily you are taking one at the rate of web servlet. One annotation is there. In that annotation, you are taking one URL pattern. No, that URL pattern you have to take here. Means what? Without annotation, we are mapping with web.xml. Why people are going to Spring Boot? The reason annotation basis will be more when compared to XML base. XML configurations will be very less because Spring Boot is easy when compared to normal Spring. So what your trainers will do, they'll teach Spring basics or Spring core. They'll go to Spring Boot directly. Spring Boot advantage is nothing but XML huge writing will not be there. All annotation based mappings will be there. Here I am taking URL pattern. I am taking URL pattern /DAS. I am taking. So now servlet mapping and URL pattern. So what happens internally means, sir, whenever I submit the data here, now control will go to web.xml. That's the concept. The control will go to web.xml because I am not writing annotation here. I'm skipping annotation. I'm writing here. So the control will go to web.xml. When the control goes to web.xml, it looks for a tag known as mapping tag. It looks for mapping tag. In this mapping tag, there one URL pattern given in HTML form. No, that URL pattern is matched here. After matching this URL pattern here, it identifies the servlet name. After identifying the servlet name, it has to identify the .class file. For that, it does mapping here. It maps to servlet tag. In servlet tag, servlet names must be same. Once the servlet name is matched here, it identifies the .class file from the test package. Whenever it identifies the servlet program, it loads. That's the concept. Then it loads. Now the servlet program loads. Now the servlet program loads. So this number I'm giving it as 4. I'm giving. So I am using web.xml for mapping. I'm using web.xml for mapping. Mapping means what? Finding the servlet. When the servlet loaded, object not created. Object created for the config, no? Right. When the object created for config, immediately in the servlet tag, initpram is there. The servlet tag not ended, no? Your servlet loaded before creating object for servlet, config created. Once the config created, the data is loaded. Understood this point? No? Once the data is loaded, then servlet ends, then the servlet object creates. That's the point. So can we execute a servlet program without annotation? Answer yes, by using web.xml. But we give this concept in the last because if we write this program this much of length in the starting, students will make a mistakes and programs will not run. So because we given a annotation only first, then we are showing in the last, there is one possibility to make a mapping through XML document also. Now the control will come here, remaining all normal. Once the config object creation completed, once the display object creation completed, here request object will come. Request object HTTP servlet request object. Request object will come. So here, whatever I submitted the data, name is equal to Alex will come. So response object will come. HTTP servlet response. HTTP servlet response will come. 0x5. Now we forward the control here. So rd dot forward of REQ and RES. Sir, I am forwarding the control here. 0x4, I am forwarding. 0x5, I am forwarding. These two addresses I am forwarding. Sir, here display.jsp will come. Display dot JSP will come. So here config object will be created. Here request object is reused. Here response object is reused. Response object reused. Here out object. Place not there. Right. So we are using this. Sir, request reused. Response reused. Whenever we use request and response, here Alex will come. Same like first program. Uname is equal to Alex will come. So we are taking the Alex here. So this is all common story. Just now I written anyway. Now look here. Why I drawn again means, sir, whenever I forward it, whenever I forward it, whenever I forward it, sir, request data is coming, response data. Config will not come, no. I am passing 0x4 and 0x5, not config. Servlet config different, JSP config different. These two objects are different. So we not forward it. Then how to access the servlet config with the JSP? How to access? Only one choice. You have to take this data and load it to request. Then only it will come. If you can load to the request, then it will come. So you have to take it and load to the request. You have to take it and load it. So take this servlet name and load here. Load some servlet name. You load it. Display servlet. You have to load it. Load it means what? Attribute. Then you have to load this also. You have to load this also. In the form of attribute, you must load it. B is equal to 3000. Then only they are available to request. Sir, how to load it? See there. Now I am writing display servlet. I am writing under Java resources. I am taking one package test. I am taking. Click on finish. Under test, I am taking display servlet. I am taking display servlet. Display servlet I am taking. So import java.io, import jakarta.servlet, import jakarta.servlet.http, import jakarta.servlet. Sorry, annotation not needed today. I'm not writing annotation today. So extends from HTTP servlet protected void do post of HTTP servlet request REQ HTTP servlet response RES throws SERVLET servlet exception and IO exception. Override. So now first you have to access the context object here. Sorry, config object here. So SCF is equal to 0x2. First you have to access this reference here. If you get this reference only, you can do the work. Get it. To access this reference here, we are using SERVLET servlet config SCF is equal to super dot get servlet config. We are getting from the parent. Now REQ dot set attribute. I am setting the attribute in the request. That is servlet name is equal to here SCF dot get servlet name. One method is there. SCF dot get servlet name. I am assigning here. I am loading here. I'll observe this. Right. Now REQ dot set attribute. I am adding attribute B, but B is integer value. So you must write integer dot parse int. Integer dot parse int. First you have to get the value outside. Int sum B is equal to integer dot parse int of SCF dot get init parameter of B. I'm bringing that value outside. Understood this point? Yes or no? Right. First, I'm getting from the config, converting into integer, putting here. And this one, I'm creating as an object. New integer of B. New integer means object, no? Yes or no? Now, wrapper class object. Why you are tried wrapper class object means set attribute parameter is object. So I'm putting object. Then forward. REQ get request dispatcher forward display dot JSP dot forward request and response. So I'm forwarding. I added a servlet name. Here I used S name. I added a B also. This is integer object and this is string object indirectly. I forwarded the control. Whenever I forwarded the control, see these three are available here. Name is available. S name is available. B is available. It can access. These two are attributes. This is parameter. Parameter means came from HTML form. Attributes means I took from another object and loaded to another object. Now go to display.jsp under web app, new JSP display.jsp display.jsp. So here script let. Sir, I am bringing one uname that is string. Uname is equal to request dot get parameter of uname. You are coming from the HTML form. So you can say out dot print lm. You can say welcome, welcome user and display that uname. So now I am displaying the data from your config. Why system dot out? Out dot print ln here servlet config anyway. Servlet config data. Servlet config data here. I want a name, no servlet name. I want string servlet name is equal to, this is one string form coming from request dot request quest request dot get attribute. Attribute name is yes name, servlet name, that is. I want value. What value now? Integer b, because it is coming in the form of integer object. Because of this reason, you must know wrapper classes available. If you use roughly value, no exceptions will come. So here request dot get attribute of b. Same name I am using. You can display here. So out dot print ln servlet name. So servlet name I am displaying here as sn. Here out dot print ln here servlet config, servlet program, servlet config, because it came from servlet program, not JSP program. No, servlet program, servlet config value. Means servlet config belongs to servlet program, not JSP. That's my intention. So here B I will print it. Right. This is the point. Sir, what about JSP? Here one JSP also available no. Anyway, the servlet config of servlet data through request you are bringing and displaying. Then what about this config, sir? Let us try config, JSP config. Let us display JSP config. Out dot print ln here JSP config. JSP also servlet config on the name is servlet config only. JSP servlet config. JSP servlet config. Here, now why system is coming? Out dot print ln config. What that config is holding? Sir, I want to display that config. See there, config dot. Here also get servlet name will be there. In this config also, so get servlet name will be there. Right. Let me run it. So web.xml is ready. Display is ready. Input.html is ready. And servlet is ready. So run as, run on server. Click on finish. Alex. Welcome user Alex. Servlet name is display servlet. Have you observed? Right. Servlet program servlet config value is 3000. JSP servlet config name is JSP. Means I am servlet config of JSP only, but my name is JSP. I am not servlet. And JSP objects also servlet objects only, but they created when the JSP comes. So two objects newly created, config and out. But request response we recreate, we reuse it. That's a flavor. So all of you understood config, right? Why this session, today's session is giving information to a student here. We can load the data to servlet context and servlet config. From web.xml, we can load the data to context. From web.xml, we can load the data to config. Not only a web browser input, in other side also we can take the data from web.xml. That's the informations through this program, right? So here, example, project name I taken, application servlet 8, servlet config. So layout here input dot html, here display. Sorry, I took first web.xml, here display servlet dot java and display dot jsp. Note, NOT note. From this note, only one, only one servlet context object is created for, only one servlet context object is created for web application, and the data available in servlet context object can be used by all servlet and JSP programs of web application. All can use that information. Only one servlet context object is created for web application, and the data available in servlet context object can be used by all servlet and JSP programs of web application. Every servlet program will have its own servlet config object. Every servlet program will have its own servlet config and and the data available in servlet config object can be used by only one servlet program of web application. Right. Third statement is we can use web.xml or annotation to hold servlet URL pattern. We use web.x or not can. We use web.xml or annotation, both options. Annotation to hold servlet URL pattern to identify identify servlet program for execution. For execution. So if anybody asked servlet objects, if anybody asked, so summary of servlet objects. In the servlet object, first one is servlet context. Second one is you can say servlet config. You can say. Third one you can say HTTP servlet request. Fourth one you can say HTTP servlet response. And fifth one is print writer. Do you remember print writer? So we never use print writer because servlet will not give the response. When servlet response is there, print writer. Sixth one, you must take it as cookie. And seventh one, you must take it as HTTP session object. And eighth one, you must take it as bean object you have to take. And ninth one, you have to take it as DAO objects you have to take. And the 10th one, you have to take it as JCF objects. So these are the objects related to servlet. So your servlet ended to 100% of the objects. So to give that config context only, I brought the class. Anyway, that is, you can read normal notes also, you'll understand it. Right. So now we have to make the conclusion on JSP. That's the last one. Here in your diagrams already JSP is coming now always, right? In JSP. So servlet over. This is over. In JSP, some conclusion like this, how many objects will come listed and some tags are there. No, we write in notes. So that is pending. It takes 1.5 hours to 2 hours for conclusion. Tomorrow class is there 9:30 online. Tomorrow disturbance will not be there. Don't worry. So last time I cannot reach home. I am in the middle actually because my laptop switched off. I stopped my car and I start saying to you. So tomorrow I'll be at home only. So tomorrow 9:30 online. What does the class means? I'll touch the JSP. Right? Okay. First to 15 minutes architecture layout MVC discussion. With that, what is JSP pending? What we used, what we not used. We'll make a notes and we conclude it. Conclusion of JSP tomorrow by 9:30 online class. So again, the link will be posted. Clear everyone? Right. Take a break. Thank you very much for today.
Sir, I come to Java class, sir. In the beginning, you said you will get half of your amount refund. Half of your amount refund if you write an ask. I think I think so. The question of the class. Thank you, sir. Question of the class. Right. Ask for it. And I hope you will not. That's yes. All the best.